All right, so today is December 21st. My birthday is in a week, and I've had some people mention it, and it's not, I'm not trying to purport myself as sounding popular or being some figure of high standing in society, but I've had a couple people mention it. And I guess I've never really explained the way I view it. See, the thing about both the 18th one and the 21st one, where they were milestones that everybody just gradually comes to. When you're 18, you're an adult. When you're 21, you can drink, even though I've never have drunk. So it's kind of just, oh, cool. If I wanted to, I could do this. But what I noticed around the 20th, or maybe I think the 19th, it's one of those two, was it started to become a, um, I guess, check of deadlines slash acceptance of my own mortality. So I mentioned before that I'm a person who likes to not put things off, which is why I was so pissed off I didn't get to do the Corbyn documentary or the McConnell one. In the McConnell one's case, I wrote out a whole script, and then C-SPAN acted horrible. And then in the Corbyn case, I wrote out a whole script, and then this little move thing happened with all this stuff, and I don't have a place to record. Like, I'm literally leaning against this table, and I'm gonna have to actually have this same position for the stream for an hour, which is gonna be a killer on my back, but such is the art of video making. But a lot of times on birthdays, I'll think about stuff in general and just kind of where I would have liked to have been and that kind of thing. And I oftentimes try to explain to people that if you have a person who can only do something that is uh, only available to them via another person, and that other person says no or declines, person's kind of screwed. So, for example, and I give this example a lot of times, that when you apply for a job, you can determine how your application looks. You can determine if you even applied in the first place, but you can't force the employer to employ you. And I mention this because a lot of times people will look at where someone is and they'll say, that person was just being lazy. They didn't want to do that. I go, well, let's at least look at what they did. Of course, no one would ever go up and ask me, how was this? And actually, the last 3 weeks, I applied to a retailer in my state that has at least 10 or 11 different locations next to me, or at least, in driving distance. And I applied to 9 of them. I heard back from one of them, and when I see this email, I start jumping for joy. I go, oh my God, they're going to ask me to come see them. They're going to try to speak to me, set something up. This looks like a good prospect. I open up this email, and it reads something along the lines of, thank you for applying, Justin, but we've decided to look for other candidates at this time. We hope you'll apply to more of us. So basically, that's their way of saying to my application, thanks, but no thanks. Don't get too pissed off to where you don't apply for us, so we still have a full pool of people. And the thing is, the reason this bothered me so much is that, well, 2 reasons. One, since the other ones didn't say anything at all, you can reasonably deduce that this place, if they weren't going to hire me, just didn't have to say anything. I've only ever heard back from places that weren't going to hire if I kept calling them over and over and trying to get an answer, or if I went in for an interview, and neither of those occurred. So they, like the one place that responded out of all these different outlets for this retailer says something like that. 2, it's part of just a pattern. I go to this interview in October for this other retailer, and I mean, like, these people just smile in your face. They say all the things you want to hear. And I said, look, I need this position. I'm willing to work anytime you want. I really just pour myself into the position as far as stating the need for me to have this and making it seem as if it's something I would treat with an essential nature. And, the manager seems to be in a decent mood, seems to, I guess, be receptive to what I'm saying. We cut the interview short because the person's working. So I get about 2 weeks go by. I call them a few times. I try to, space out a little bit. Again, I'm trying to get this thing, so I can't just let them sit there week after week with no response. So when I finally get to speak to the manager again, he says something along the lines of, "I called you yesterday, you didn't answer, so I hired another candidate," with his little stupid voice. And this bothered me so much because one, they didn't actually call me. I know that because I had my phone on me literally every day, and they didn't call. Secondly, this is the same person who sent me a voicemail on a Tuesday, and I didn't call back, because I didn't recognize this number. I didn't call back or try to get in touch with them until Friday. So the same person who was completely fine with a 3-day delay between when they called me, when I answered or responded, is now telling me because I didn't answer my phone for one day, I didn't get I was not hired over the other candidate. So I hung up in their face, because again I get pissed off and I try to not say anything. Passive aggressiveness is my greatest attribute. um, and then let's go over to the voice actor thing. Now you're talking about a project where for every installment I've got to draw over 600 pictures. I can do 30 to 60 in one day. That's about my limit. I've done it a little bit some other times. I just get so burnt out, and you have to factor in editing and coloring and stuff. So bottom line is that it's very extraneous, and I'm completely fine with doing it because I believe in the story that is being told in that topic, in that video, in those videos rather. And because of how much I believe in this, I'm willing to be very courteous and forgiving of a lot of the people who are involved with this. I give them extensions. I say, hey, you know what? If you can't do it this week, do it next week. Um, and it always seems as if when you try to treat these people like the adults that they want you to believe they are, you get this like weird pushback. For example, I had a voice actor who was told no later than the 3rd of last month that I need them to do this role because people, just are going in and out of it, and I've gotten sick of it. They say they will do it. About a week ago, about 2 weeks ago, I asked, have you done it? Oh, I forgot. A week passes. Have you done it? Oh, I got this new disease that disables me from recording anything. And someone will quickly say, I know someone will say this, why are you so upset with them? They're telling the truth about their disease. I don't disbelieve that they have a disease. What pisses me off, or rather what gets on my nerves, and it's just so aggravating, is that this person had, what is it, 5-6 weeks to record 2 scripts and just kept putting it off. And now we're further inconvenienced because of a disease they got that wouldn't have screwed up what I was trying to do if they had just recorded the thing in the first place. So now I've got to sit on my hands for the rest of the year and possibly through January as well, and not see this done. We have another one who has, I only know them through an email and their account on the website we met. I send them about maybe 2-3 emails over the last 2 months. Hey, can you record? Hey, can you record? Hey, can you record? And they finally respond back about maybe a week or two ago, and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't logged into my email. I'll get that stuff." It's like, well, if you don't log into your email or the account that we interacted with on that site, how exactly am I supposed to speak to you and have some correspondence about your progression with this stuff? That seems like a fair question as far as I'm concerned. But this is to simply point out that I allow a lot of stuff to happen with these things that it's like I guess the way my personality is, I don't like confrontation, but because it's something that I see as essential to I won't say my life, but certainly just a thing I take very seriously, which is the progression of something I have now spent multiple years of my life working on. I just like at a certain point I got to cut the string. I had one of them who didn't speak for 5-6 months. I said, hey, it's over. Now let's go over to the topic everybody loves to discuss, the chick thing. Now, if you had asked me back when I was, I don't know, maybe 15, 16, 17, what do you want your life to look like when you're 22? I would have said I wanted to be married. I would have said I wanted to be a parent. I also probably would have said I wanted to have some show, which I do now, thankfully. Um, but I never could have fathomed that the chick stuff would be as difficult as it has been. Now, this is the first year since I, even started being attracted to these clowns that I said I'm not going to approach any of them. I'm not going to bother going to any malls or websites, other places, right? I'm going to completely let them come to me. And two of them did. One of them posted all my stuff. They sent me their account on some other website. And after sending this account, we interacted for probably 2, 3, 4 weeks. They gave me phone number, said they were opposed to having a call, which I don't understand at all. And it just didn't seem to be progressing. So I just said, screw it. And about maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks go by, and they send me some message out of nowhere saying that they're willing to speak. If I call them, they answer. I say hello, they still call me back. 2 weeks pass, still haven't been called back, send them a voicemail. They don't respond back to that voicemail. So it ends in a rut. The other one who came very close toward the end of the year started off kind of similarly. They comment on your stuff, they get you to some other website, and I mean, she just lavishes me with praise. She goes, "Oh yeah, you're smart and you're handsome and you're funny. You make me laugh." And I, because I'm not used to being complimented in all those different ways, assume that this might be romantic attraction because I've never met a chick who I thought was physically attractive, funny, and smart that was single that I didn't want to make some type of attempt at. So because she's basically thrown out her, I don't want to say cards, but you've conveyed some at least high opinion of who I am in all these different categories and whatnot. I think I might have a chance or a shot. So I, state my feelings, and I get told that I just don't have an attraction to you. I was like, how the hell can you say you find someone attractive and then not have an attraction? Like, it made no sense to me, but it was really the like a lot of times with the chick stuff, it is just this roller coaster of going back and forth in a circle. I got very upset. She convinced me through her little diplomatic skills to continue speaking, and we had two very enjoyable conversations where there was like a brief period where I mentioned, "Hey, uh, yeah, I'm disappointed that you did what you did, but whatever." And she laughs throughout these conversations. She either really enjoyed them or she's a hell of an actor. So imagine my surprise when not even 3 weeks later, in her drunken state, she says, "I think you resent me for not wanting to be with you, so I don't think we should speak anymore." And I'm like, this whole stupid thing was your idea, and now you don't want to do it? Now you're opposed to us interacting when that was literally what you adamantly pushed for just a few weeks ago? Talking about she had time to reflect and think about it. And so then I mentioned before, she sends me this weird paragraph long message calling me disgusting and telling me not to interact with her friends anymore, which is very bizarre because I never interact with her friends at all. I don't even know any of these people. Uh, then some picture and another text message that it was really confusing. But when I wake up the following morning, she's deleted all that stuff. Good thing we have a screenshot of that because I figured there's something not right in regard to that message. But I also thought because we were still on each other's friends list that she would explain what happened. Why did you send me this message telling me to never contact you again? And instead, a whole week passes, or almost a whole week, and she says nothing. And she did the same exact thing when she stood me up from speaking roughly 2 or 3 weeks prior. And her thing was, "Oh, I felt so depressed and I was on the verge of suicide." I said, "Look, suicide's nothing to play with. It's not funny. But Jesus Christ, if you're trying to use that as an excuse to not speak to me for a week after you do something shady, then just go somewhere else. I really have no patience for that. So, I was very disheartened by that. But these are the types of things that happen when people keep telling you, just let them come to you. You are the prize. There was one guy used to go on my page and say that. And I said, look, you can have people who find you attractive and they still play these stupid games. They still won't just come up and say, let's go on a date. Let's try to get to know each other. Let's set a timestamp for when this happens. And, I think about the chick that had the kid, and I mention that a lot of times because it's so infuriating to watch a broad who I don't think is smart. I don't think is funny, average at best. Meet one guy in real life as part of her little group of friends or whatever. Stay with that person for multiple years and then have a kid with them. That is literally verbatim exactly what I was trying to do with one of these chicks. The thing is, they kept quitting on me every other month or week, and I had to keep starting over until, you meet one of them when you're, let's say, I don't know, in 2014. That lasts for about 3 weeks, and it just keeps every week or month a new chick to where now they're saying, well, I don't really know you like that, and I don't really think we can do something like this because I'm not attracted to you, even though I said that I found you attractive. I'll give them credit. They have destroyed my belief that the chick going up to the guy makes a difference, because I mentioned before the only relationship I was ever in was a broad that came up to me and stated her attraction before she turned out to be the biggest gold digger in U.S. history. Now I really don't know, because even the ones who came up appeared to be interested, talked all this, this good stuff about how I was, so this and that. Still say no, still decline, still don't want to move, don't want to progress. And that's why I said that with all this stuff, with the employment, with the show, with it all just feels like you're standing still, and you go to these chicks, you compromise, you say, look, I don't care that you smoke, I don't care that you live in another state, I don't care that I have to get up at whatever hour to go to this position, I don't care if this voice actor takes a month to record 5 or 6 scripts. I'm going to put up with it. And in exchange for that humanity, that attempt to understand the people around you, you get treated like trash. I mean, and I've tried to explain, we're not, because one person said, why don't you just laugh it off? This is not something to laugh off. This is literally my life that these people are playing with. When the employer says, I'll think about you, and then a few weeks later, you find out somebody else got the position, or they contact you and say, hey, man, sorry, no thank you. That's not just something you walk away from. That's something that was very important to you, that you stated that you needed, and they basically stuck a middle finger in your face and said, get lost. It's the same thing with the voice actors. I had a stream this past week about me getting stabbed in the back, a voice actor that when I met this person in, I think it was March or April, I was on cloud 9 because I had sat here and gone through 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 different attempts to get someone to do that role, including a person who quit right after they got it, disappeared, like Jimmy Hoffa. And when I met this person, when they recorded this stuff, I almost wanted to reach into the screen and buy them dinner. It was perfect. And I even said to them, I'm not going to have you record a whole bunch of stuff. One, because I'm not a douchebag, but secondly, because I don't want you to record stuff that I don't know if it's going to come out or if it's going to be anytime soon. So I even gave them that break. I listened to what their concerns were. I worked around their schedule, and they still stabbed me in the back. I wake up one day after my last message between me and them has them do a little emoticon heart thing showing that they liked it or whatever, to be unfriended. And I inquire on this other website, why did you unfriend me? Then I get blocked on that other on that same site I got unfriended on, and they don't respond. But that's why I said, this is why I don't care about making friends, because people are such traitors, and you can't even tell what the hell they are anymore. You go up to an employer and they smile in your face and you think, oh, I might get this position, or if this keeps happening, I'll get a position, and you get nothing back. You go up to some chick that says out of her own mouth, not your interpretation, not your thought, for fact that According to her, she finds you physically attractive, smart, all the other stuff, and she still says no. And you're supposed to look at that and go, that makes sense. I guess I'll just go and approach another 80 or 90 different chicks. No, you say screw it. Because getting with the broad is not a utility. It's not something you need to live with. It's not air or food or any of that. So when people say, well, you're just being a quitter, how the hell are you a quitter when you went out and approached dozens and dozens of chicks over a several year span? But I told you that's what people do when they don't want to take into account the individual experiences of men like myself who have gotten sick of this group of people. And we're not sick of them because we went to the mall and saw the woman with the biggest titties and the largest butt and she said no. We're upset because we met some chick that we thought was nice. She spoke to us like she, gave a damn. And then after 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks or a couple of months, she kicked us to the curb after saying she wasn't attracted. It was all a dream. Like, no one has a problem with that. None of these chicks realize how frustrating it is to sit there and be told over and over again, you have to improve yourself, work on all this crap. And the broad gets to sit there. I mean, I've literally seen men who have muscles get with 200, 300-pound broads. They're like 5'2" or 5'3". I've seen guys that drive, these expensive cars get with broads that live in projects or in other. And listen, this is not about attempting to make it seem as if people who don't have the same social background are beneath you. I'm simply saying that if it were reversed, it would almost be impossible. I could never expect that I'm going to live in this bad neighborhood and some woman's going to see me walking down the street and while she's in her Lamborghini or whatever fancy car you can think of. And suddenly she's going to say, you look so attractive. Let me swoop you up. And I'm going to get to come back to her man. Like, that never happens with a woman doing that to a man. It's always the man having to go out and be Superman. And the woman gets to be, I don't even know, just any crappy character you can think of is what she gets to be. And no one has a problem with this. Like, people genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with this cycle. And they'll label someone like me a quitter, a secret homosexual who spent years approaching chicks to try to trick us into thinking he was straight. Like, they'll do things such as that, or they'll say things like that because they don't want to face the reality of what has happened, which is that you have a lot of guys who overextend themselves to get with these chicks who don't give a damn about them and will treat them like trash. I've worked very hard over the last couple of years to be an active person on YouTube, talk about the news because I consider it important, to do the show, to really just extend myself in a lot of different ways to, I know I'm using "to" a lot, just to things that are happening, and to also not keep saying "to." But yeah, when I have one of these birthdays, I always just think about what I've, I guess, achieved and what hasn't happened. And a lot of what hasn't happened is because of someone else. And I had someone who said, this is defeatist mentality because now you're just assuming that you might as well not even bother or try because you're always going to feel like, no. We're talking about guys who get sick of failing because all they do is try. A guy who goes out and says, screw it, after talking to almost or a little bit over 100 chicks from all over the world / his state, is not a quitter. He's a person who's sick of seeing a group of people act like they should have been in Attack of the Clones because they all do the exact same thing no matter what they say. A guy who goes out and applies to 50, 60, 70 different establishments and then takes a week or two to not apply anymore isn't a quitter. He's someone who got sick of filling out these papers over and over again, and then sometimes going to an interview, trying to speak as if he's so committed to the position, having a person smile in his face like this, and still getting thrown out like he didn't matter. A man who does a project and thinks of quitting it after voice actors with almost every single installment stall him over and over is not a quitter. He's a guy who for 3 years worked on something and did his part, including voice more characters than anybody else on that, and just said, if the people don't help me, I can't do it. He faced the reality of the situation, which is that none of us live in a bubble. We're all affected by what each other does. And this is something that people don't want to recognize. So I look forward to being smeared in my 22nd year as someone that's lazy slash all the other negative terms you could use toward me. I actually had a person who said in the stream we did this past Sunday, all the way at the end, I didn't really get to see it until I went back and replayed it. You put these garbage women on a pedestal. Like, man, look, here's the truth, the little dirty secret about guys that get turned down. Every broad who turned you down automatically becomes trash after she turned you down. So when I was talking to that second chick that approached me this year, the one that said all the good stuff and then still turned out to be an empty suit, she was someone who I could easily tell you was into the same stuff I was into, was fun to talk to, that I was excited to speak to. And after she said no, or rather after she pissed me off with her, I don't want to speak anymore crap, following 3 weeks of wanting to speak to me and just abruptly switching over, I said, this is a person who's dumb. They don't make any sense. They can't make up their mind except when it negatively impacts me. But that's just an example that when you get disenfranchised with a woman, all that good stuff you thought about her goes right out the window. And that's just the truth. Like, that's why I said that I'd say the quiet part out loud, because these people want to keep feeding you crap. Oh, yeah, keep approaching that group that never bothers to do anything with you. And I said, look, I'm sorry, but you'll never get me to think that my efforts were not extraneous for something that is very normal and shouldn't be this difficult. Why the hell does a guy have to speak to almost or over 100 chicks just to go on a date? Why does a man have to apply to 40, 50, 60, 70 different retailers just to get a regular position? Why the hell does a man have to go through 60 or 40 different uninterested VAs just to get one who records for a little bit and then abruptly quits? Even after he says, I will give you a month to do this. I will give you 2 months to do this. I will give you a week to record. Just no matter what compromises you make, these people just keep cutting your stuff up. I actually, I recorded this earlier, but I didn't like because I was outside. I was tempted to put up a picture of either myself or some other caricature holding a series of hats that were all being connected by glue and tape. And in this picture, he has his back turned to the hats that are connected by glue and tape. And you've got a broad, you've got someone that looks like a manager, and you've got a voice actor, which would be a lot harder to convey an image, all just ripping this up. He's doing all he can to make this stuff stick, to make it function, to make it actually go together. He's compromised. He's got this type of glue, this type of tape, all that stuff, and it just doesn't matter. I felt the same way with the school thing. I was pissed off that, I sat here year after year going to these institutions, and then ultimately I stopped because I get price gouged out of it. But like I said, I can't control everything that happens to me, especially if some school wants to charge a person that's not even 2 years of the high school $12,000 to go. I didn't see where it made sense to pay that, especially for a piece of paper that doesn't guarantee me a position anyway. But yeah, in conclusion, I'm not really excited. I'm proud of the efforts I've made, and I really have no regrets with what I've done. I'm glad that I have tried to make things work. And if people don't want to assist with that, that's their loss.